Hello there, and welcome to Gina Gardiner and Friends. And I have a lady who I have the most incredible respect for, Masami Sato. You've heard me talk about B1G1, buy one, give one, on every single show. And here I have the lady who started it all. I am humbled to be in her presence, and I'm absolutely thrilled that she's joining me on the program. Masami, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, Gina, thank you so much for having me.
Before we get started, tell your story and how you came to start B1G1.
Well, that can be a really long story, but I will give you a short version.
Okay.
So, my name Masami, it comes from Japan. So I was born in Japan and grew up in Japan. And in my youth, I had the opportunity to travel around the world. And during that time, when I was connecting with people around the world, I had a dilemma about what was happening. One was that there were lots of people in the world who had so little. They were struggling and not even having access to basic resources like clean water or simple basic education. And on the other hand, there are lots of people who had more in the world too. But then many of those people were not feeling totally fulfilled, even though they had material wealth. So I had a question about this. And then many years later, when I became a mother for the first time, having my own child, I finally realized that even though what was happening in the world was so big and I didn't have a power to change what was happening, but I just wanted to do something. So I became an entrepreneur and started my very first business, which was food business. Because for me, food was the way for me to connect with people when I even couldn't speak the language when I was traveling. So as a food business owner, I ventured into business, quite prematurely, like with lots of idealism. I wanted my company to grow, to create a success and profit so that we could give. And one day I thought we could perhaps help build a foundation and, create a soup kitchen and help feed and educate the children, especially street children. When I was traveling, I connected with a lot of the street kids. So that was how I went into entrepreneurship. And about 5 years later, my company at that time was distributing wholesale frozen meals to more than 150 stores. I was working so hard trying to make money too, because one day I was thinking that I wanted to give and then to make a difference. But I realized that for a business owner like me, giving and making a difference wasn't so easy. Every day we were so busy, right? So one day this simple idea came to me, and then I thought, what if instead of trying to do something big in the future, what if we did something small but did it every day? And then we implemented the idea of buy one, give one, that every meal we sold, we allocated a small portion of proceed to help provide a meal and then also access to education to children. So then eventually, about 7 months later, I realized that this idea could be really game-changing because there are so many business people and the businesses around the world. Probably, those businesses wanted to make a difference too, but maybe they didn't know how to actually, integrate something like impactful giving activities in business. So at that time, I sold my food company back then in Australia and then moved to Singapore to start B1G1 as a global giving initiative. And today we work with thousands of businesses that embed giving in what they do, just like you, Gina, through every business action. And then together, those businesses have created more than 290 million giving impacts, planting trees, giving meals, providing access to education, access to water. So so that's B1G1, and that's what we do. We help businesses embed effective giving in what they do.
In some ways, it's such a simple idea, and yet in other ways, you've brought together a simple idea into a very complex situation in a global way. I'd like you to explain how you've organized impacts to make it easy for businesses to give.
So let me give you an example. So when we look at some global issues, and we know those are important issues that we need to solve, but if we think about even like simple things like access to clean water, and to provide access to clean water to community of people who currently don't have access to water, and they have to walk hours to, every day to collect water from polluted lake or water sources. So this is the reality of people, and still nearly like 700 million people today don't have access to water. So if we thought that, okay, we want to help solve this problem, but then when we think about and look at what needs to be done to bring access to clean water, and then the methodologies behind it, then perhaps like one way is to build a well in a community. And in order to do that, it could cost, let's say, $5,000, $6,000, to build one well. And single business may not be able to go right away. Oh, we can fund that, and then fix that problem. We may not be able to do that. So in B1J1, what we do is we source and select and assess organizations that are working on such issues, and then look at their track record and their budgeting, financial management, and then come up with the cost breakdown. So if it was in the case of well, then one well may cost $5,000, but that well might last X number of years without, too much maintenance. And then also we can look at the statistics about the number of people who live in the community, and we can then break it down into the cost per person, cost per year, cost per month, cost per day, and then reach small micro impact, such as providing access to water to one person for one day is just 1 cent. And then if we then go to businesses and say, are you able to fund 1 cent for every coffee your cafe sells, or every email you send out? Can you actually give 1 cent to bring access to clean water to somebody's life? Then it actually suddenly becomes so much easier. And so B1J1 has the system and platform that curate these high impact, carefully selected projects in a micro impact unit, and then also help businesses to actually embed that impact with business activities. And some businesses choose to do it in an automated way as well. So we always continuously think about how to actually make it so easy for businesses to go, well, like, if it's so easy, we can actually do this and don't have to wait. We don't have to wait anymore.
There's so much in what you say. So many people that you talk to look at the global issues and think, what can I do? I'm only one person. How can I deal with poverty? How can I ensure education? And I think the relationship between, for example, clean water and education, for many people may not be obvious. But it's usually the children and the women who carry the water. And if a child is spending 4 hours walking to the river to get dirty water and 4 hours back, then they can't be in education. So for me, one of the joys of it is by giving clean water, not only do you give the opportunity for people to live healthier lives, but actually you release those children to then have the opportunity to go to education. And then because your organization also provides educational opportunities, it dovetails so that you're giving people life chances that they would never have had.
Yeah, totally right. And because the problems that we face in the world doesn't have a single answer. So it's always about this ecosystem of all different factors that interplay. And so even though we know that education is one of the most important things to unlock people's potential, who are in poverty, but at the same time, we cannot neglect access to nutrition, clean water, also, emotional, mental support, providing support to people who have a certain traumas. Like all of these things actually matter so much to create healthy and fulfilling communities where people can actually really thrive. And then environmental factor also plays a part in that as well. So some, tree planting project, we think it's just about the trees, and the trees are important. We know that, but at the same time, when we plant certain types of trees, like a fruit tree, it could potentially bring access to income generating opportunities to families. And as a result, we can enable families to also send their children to school. So it's like all connected, all kinds of activities are connected. So our aim is to really inspire so many businesses doing different things that care about the different issues, and then to empower and inspire them to actually integrate the tangible action to create a positive impact, but do it also every day and regularly.
One of the things that I'd like to explore in this section of the show, Masami, is how you have such an infrastructure that helps people have confidence that the projects that they're giving to are well run, that the money that people are donating will actually go to the projects and not into some fat cat's pocket. Can you talk us through how you choose your projects and how you monitor your projects? Because I think many people, that's a concern when they give to charity.
So in B1G1, we don't focus on just having as many charity organizations as possible, in our platform, but it is really about finding the right type of organizations that matches with this model of facilitating giving impact. So it naturally makes it quite challenging. The best way for you to find out, and anybody to find out about our criteria and our process, is for you to go to b1g1.org. And we have another website, b1g1.com, which talks about the business initiative. But the b1g1.org, which is the giving arm of b1g1, has an independent board, which actually assesses all of the applications coming from different charity organizations. But fundamentally, we just need to make sure first that they meet the criteria we set. So that's available on b1g1.org. But another part of it, other than the organization that can check all of the criteria, such as all the documentations, the registration status, audited accounts. So that's kind of part of it. But in addition to that, what we do is to carefully bring in the organizations based on the impact breakdown, like the project, and then also demand and supply as well. Because when we are bringing in the new projects in B1G1, we also want to make sure that all of the projects that are bringing in and then spending our effort and time on onboarding into the platform will actually raise enough support as well. So we are always looking at the demand and supply, as well as monitoring each of the project budget and how the funding from the B1G1 businesses are fulfilling the funding budget, and then keeping the right balance. Because it's also important to ensure that the project we work with can gradually grow to achieve more. And so either underfunding or overfunding, we are keeping an eye on those situations so we can actually take action before, there is too much money going into the project or not enough funding going in. Then we will always look at how to support the project as well. So in a sense, this is kind of like always work in progress. But we will also do an annual review of all the projects. So we are receiving the updates from project every quarter and then every year to ensure that the project activities are actually growing. And then also we are making continuous updates on all of the projects that are listed in B1G1 on a regular basis.
I think for me, that's one of the reasons why I chose this organization to work with, because I have such confidence that you have in place the checks and balances to make sure that the projects are required and that they're well run. I'd like to explore with you, the sort of things that you put in place to make it so easy for businesses, because your system has lots and lots of automated things that can really make a difference. So can you share that with our listeners today?
So I think many businesses actually do it differently. Like in the beginning, when we had the buy one give one idea, then people said like, "Oh, how does it work? How are you going to automate this?" In the beginning, it was quite challenging because every business would use different systems or different, they have different processes in their businesses, and to have a single model to work with all kinds of businesses was very, very challenging. But today, through the power of technology, we actually can do so much more. So for example, B1G1 is one of the Zapier integrated apps, which means that B1G1's giving story, such as when you say, every time we send an email, we want to give access to water, or every time we have a Zoom call, we want to plant a tree, or every time somebody download an ebook, we want to help educate a child for one day. So when people come up with these giving stories, they actually can integrate this giving story with more than 5,000 apps that people are using and businesses are using. So Zoom is one of the examples. So actually you can integrate Zoom with B1G1 giving story. So every time you actually do have a meeting on Zoom and then complete the meeting, you can push that one tree to your giving card. So in that sense, like B1G1 can offer automation today in so many different ways. Another thing is some businesses might go like, well, I actually want to set a budget, and then target, and then every month I want to give to these projects and create impact. Then some companies might choose to automate it in a form of monthly automated giving. And this one could be quite useful. So for example, if business want to do, like, let's say carbon offset, and then offset their office energy usage, or for each of the team member they have in their company, they want to do certain giving to offset the carbon emission, then that kind of things, they could just do automated monthly giving. And then you can just see the giving impacts accumulate as you continue to give. And the last part is like, if businesses have team members and they want to invite their team in the giving portal, and then issue something like impact token on their birthdays, for example, or anniversaries, then they could actually set a date for the impact token as a special gift to go to the team member. And then the message would say, oh, you just received impact token worth this much, and you can go to B1G1 and choose the impact you want to create. So in a sense, there are many ways to really like integrate the giving, or simplify, automate, or streamline the giving impact creation. And not only that, all the giving that businesses actually do can be converted into tangible impact measurement. So businesses can see like how many trees they planted in certain place, or how many days of education they planted, or how many books they provided, how many bricks they've given to build schools, or so in a sense, we try to make the giving activities as meaningful as possible.
And I know that you have the opportunity for your impacts to automatically show up on your website, so that your customers and your suppliers and so on can also see what an impact that you're making. The other thing I like about it is that, as you join, you get a code. And if you encourage other people to join, then you get to see how your impact has spread by letting other people know. And if you're a businessman or woman, then just think about how this could positively support your business while doing real good in the world. Masami, when you first came up with the idea, did you have an inkling that you would have a global organization that at its heart was helping not only you make a difference, but helping people around the world make a difference?
I didn't have I didn't even imagine that the B1G1 was going to be like this. But before leading to B1G1, I did have an idea about what was really important in the world, or in the business world, which was this ecosystem. Because earlier on in my life, I spent about 2 years living with farmers in Japan. That's when I was trying to create a self-sustainable, like self-sufficient life. And during that that period, I actually learned that creating abundance is actually really, really simple if we follow the law of nature, because nature have all the organism and all the elements that naturally create this sustainable abundance, like bees pollinating flowers, or even the fungi network underground, and all those things are interplaying. So when I actually really thought about the business and our world, I realized that perhaps what's missing in the business world or global world is the way all these little dots to play a part in making things better and work better. So I saw the potential of business is actually making so much good to happen in the world. And the B1G1 was a way to do so, to mobilize small businesses and everyday individuals to play a part in making good things happen in the world. So I think now looking back, today's B1G1 is like an expression of that natural ecosystem, like the businesses being little bees pollinating flowers. So in a sense, it's like as expected, but I think we can do so much more from here.
I think so many people feel helpless when they watch the news and they see famine, or they see people who are struggling because of health issues, or clean water, or in an environment that's becoming desert because people have just denuded the earth. And one of the things that strikes me at the power of what you've created is my little contribution is actually worth much more when it is part of a much bigger contribution.
Yes.
And you talk about bees and pollinating. And I think the other thing that strikes me is that all of the projects that I looked at and the ones that we donate to are designed to give people the power ultimately to start helping themselves. Rather than just here you are and patting them on the head and here's some charity and we'll look after you. It's about helping people to develop the health and the skills to support themselves. There's a saying, isn't there? I give a man a fish, it feeds him for a day. I give him a fishing rod and I feed him for life. And that seems to me very much the principle on which B1G1 is built.
Yes, and then the best part of this work is when people who initially received some help actually become the ones to give in the later part of the journey. And so I've seen so many times that children who received the scholarship, or women who had opportunity to start a business, when we ask them what their dreams are now, then many of them said that they want to help others. And so that's the kind of best part of it, when we can actually create a place where we can all express our giving spirit. That's create a giving culture, and that's good for business, good for the communities, and good for the world.
We often talk about having a win-win situation, but I think you could almost go win-win-win-win-win with B1G1, because so many different factors come together and there's the opportunity for everybody to gain. Now we're at the last few minutes of the show. How can people join B1G1? How can they find out more about it? Where should they go?
So anybody can visit b1g1.com and find out more. And then also, if you are interested in connecting with me, then you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
And that's amazing that, given that you have got so much going on, that you are so accessible to have conversations with people. So b1g1.com, that's capital B and the number 1, capital B, the number 1, actually as the numeral, not as a word, .com. So please do go and check it out. And if you're a business that really wants to be enlightened about what you do and to make a difference while you're earning for your business itself, then B1G1 is definitely the way to go. Masami, it just remains for me to say a huge, huge thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to watching your work blossom and grow in the coming years, and to be part of that. as we are very proud members. Now, I'd love to hear from you and know which of the themes that we have on the show that you enjoy, and whether there are other themes that you would enjoy. So please email me at Gina, Gina, at genuinely-u.com. That's genuinely-u.com. You'll find lots and lots of resources, free and paid, on the website, genuinely-u.com, and all of my books are on Amazon. So, Masami, thank you so much once again for joining us. It's been an absolute delight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being listeners on the show, and do join us on the next show. Take care now. Bye-bye.